Hello, and you're watching the History Fella channel. In this video we're looking at the Battle of Bentonville. This would be the last major confrontation between the Union and Confederacy in the Western Theatre. Fresh from his victorious march to the sea, which had gutted the heart of Georgia, Major General William T. Sherman now led his Army of the Mississippi north into the Carolinas, intending to meet with Ulysses S. Grant in Virginia. Sherman had split his forces in two. The left wing, the Army of Georgia, commanded by Major General Henry W. Slocum, and the right wing, the Army of the Tennessee, led by Major General Oliver O. Howard. As they marched north independently, destroying rebel supplies and rail lines in their path, until they rendezvoused at Goldsboro, North Carolina. Robert E. Lee ordered General Joseph E. Johnston to command the only Southern force in the vicinity and to gather together whatever other units they could muster to block their progress. Combining the remnants of the Army of Tennessee, units from Lee's own Army of Northern Virginia, and troops from Georgia, Florida, and South Carolina, Johnston morphed them into one new command, the Army of the South. Outnumbered 3-1, he thought the Confederates could isolate and attack Slocum's wing at Bentonville before it could combine with Howard's. Then they stood a chance. Unfortunately, the maps Johnston's staff were using prior to the battle incorrectly placed the wings a greater distance from one another than they were, which would have consequences for Johnston over the coming days. The Army of the South established a defensive line 1 mile outside of Bentonville, along the main road. This ran north, and they awaited Slocum's arrival as they marched towards Goldsboro. Advancing towards what they believed to be nominal enemy resistance, Slocum underestimated its size, with his initial orders to disperse them using a single infantry division failing as the battle quickly escalated. Bringing up his whole wing took some time, as Johnston's forces now pressed forward along the front line, sending word to Howard and Sherman, bringing up reinforcements 12 miles further behind him. Slocum ordered his divisional commanders to establish a linear line of defense, but crucially not to construct breastworks. As the day progressed, it dawned on Slocum that he was facing a whole Confederate army. By 3 p.m. the Army of the South was in position, and now attacked the Federals in strength. Confederate infantry crashing into Slocum's left flank, driving them back and capturing many prisoners, including a Caulfield hospital. As the rebels gained ground on the flanks, various divisions were now being enfiladed by Southern fire at the Union line started to buckle. A situation almost repeated on the Union right too. A complete disaster was averted only by a lack of coordination by the Confederates, assaulting the Union front and its centre, holding them before successfully counterattacking. The fighting continued sporadically until midnight, when the Confederates withdrew to their start lines and began to dig in. The following afternoon, Slocum received the first batch of fresh troops from Howard's wing, now arriving piecemeal onto the battlefield, who extended his right flank and allowed him to reinforce weaker areas. Johnston was now facing the combined strength of the Union forces he feared. But to where his army was all that stood in the way of Sherman continuing into Virginia, he ordered his men to hold the ground for as long as practicable. He held the vain hope that an impatient Sherman might resort to wasteful infantry assaults against his established defensive positions, thus evening out the odds. Having learned to his detriment outside of Atlanta how costly his option would be, Sherman was content to simply send in skirmishers to probe the enemy lines. On March the 21st, a localised reconnaissance by Union forces on their right flank developed into a major assault by two whole brigades that exploited gaps in the Confederate line, threatening the whole southern defence and sealing off any chance Johnston might have to retreat back into the bridge over Mill Creek, which anchored his whole position. Early success had the Union brigades only 1 mile away from the crossing, until a timely counterattack of Southern cavalry and an order from Sherman himself called a halt to the attack, saving the situation for Johnston. That night he ordered the Army of the South to quietly pull back from their positions, burning the bridge as they left, but still leaving the route north open for Sherman to now exploit. If you found this video informative, please feel free to give the video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you in the next video.